יעקב,
מה שלומך, אחי?
הכל טוב.
הכל טוב?
מה איתך? כן.
הכל בסדר.
I see. איך הקורסים?
הקורסים התחילו השבוע הזה, ואני צריך לעשות, wow, my Hebrew is bad. How do you say homework? There assignments. There's a word for assignments.
עבודת בית. שיעורי בית.
Shiurei bayit. No, but there was a word for assignment. Like an essay or something?
מאמרים?
No.
משימות?
Uh, let's study some Tanya. my rabbinic Hebrew and Aramaic is much better than
It's much better than modern Hebrew.
Much better, yes.
Okay.
It's my turn.
It's your turn?
It's my turn. Epistle 6.
So weiter.
Zorea tzedakah secher emet. He who sows tzedakah has a reward of truth. From Proverbs 11. Perish. That means Shachar zriat hatzedakah he midat emet. So he's explaining to us that the reward, the schar, that which one gets from engendering, sowing truth, the tzedakah is the aspect, the attribute of truth. So obviously he's talking about the two sfirot, chesed and emet. I mean tiferet, which are tzedakah and emet. So he's going to explain. Uchtiv titen emet leYaakov, right? Like it says in Malachi, Micah. That truth was given to Jacob, and that's why Midat Yaakov Avinu Tiferet is Emet. Ushvaha dekucha brichu mesader nevi hulu, kamo shekatuv bezohar kadosh. And here the prophet Micah speaks the praises of the Holy One, blessed be He, as is written in the Holy Zohar. I'm not sure what that means. Rather than petitioning God, Titen, he's actually explaining. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perish. Shakadosh Baruch Hu hanoten midat emet leYaakov. That means that it is Hakadosh Baruch Hu, God Himself, who gives this attribute of truth to Yaakov. V'tzarich lahaven, and this is something that we need to understand. V'chi ein emet beYaakov chas v'shalom ad sheHakadosh Baruch Hu yiten lo milamala. So what does this mean, right? When we talk about especially the Sheva Ushpizin and the Eser Sfirot, right? We're talking about primary emanations from God, right? So when it says Titen, right, it means that it's something that's given, right? So does it mean that it's not intrinsic to Yaakov himself, right?
It's given constantly.
Well, he's going to explain what exactly it means given. But the question is, why is it something that is given as opposed to something that is inherent?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right? Ach hine mudat zot, the midat Yaakov, he midat rahamim. So we have chesed and we have Gevurah, right? And the combination of Chesed and Gevurah, or Chesed and Din, right, which are charity or kindness and justice, is compassion, right?
Mhm.
So this note, Abraham epitomizes chesed, the attribute of kindness. Isaac epitomizes gevura, the attribute of severity. The predominant attribute of Jacob is tiferet or rachamim. Tiferet is sometimes translated as beauty, compassion. The inward aspects of the soul's divine service, when motivated by chesed, is the love of God. The inward aspect of the soul's divine service, when motivated by gavura, is the awe of God. So too, divine service, when motivated by compassion, has its distinctive inward aspect. The avodat Hashem b'midat rahamim hi haba'a mehit orut rahamim rabim belev ha'adam al nitzot elokut she benafsho. So he's telling us that service which we do to God, for God, as through the aspect of compassion, is that we awaken compassion to that spark of holiness, of godliness that animates us, right? And that awakens both our own compassion and God's compassion towards us.
Right.
הרחוקה מאור פני השם כאשר הולך בחושך הבלי עולם. So, what kind of compassion, right? The fact that that divine spark God has given you has to suffer in the darkness of this world, as opposed to being in its divine source. Man napach mitoche napach, right? He who breathes deeply, and chelak alakab mal mamish, right? That it is truly a part of godliness, right? And it only descended into this world. V'hitorut rahmanut zo hi ba'a mehatvuna v'hada'at begedulat Hashem, right? So one way to awaken that is to meditate and deeply understand the greatness of God. איך שאפילו העולמות העליונים למעלה מעלה עד אין קץ כלה ממש חשיבי קמא, right? How even the greatest of all things is like nothing before him. כי כל שפעם וחיותם אינו רק מזיב והרע מאות אחד משמו יתברך. Right? That everything is less than just a mere glimmer of a single letter of his name, not he himself, but his name. Kama amar beyod nivra olam haba, right? As, it says that all of olam haba, this is from the Talmud, both the Jerusalem Talmud and the Babylonian Talmud. והנה בזיו והארה זו, שהוא התפשטות החיות משמו יתברך לחיות עליונים ותחתונים.
So this is talking about the light, the radiance that comes down in consequence to the compassion that is aroused in our heart and arouses God's compassion.
No. He's saying that the worlds, all of the worlds were created, right, through just the light that comes from. So even the greatest of worlds, the world to come, was created merely from
One letter.
right? So
Yeah.
it is an extension of that one letter of his name,
Hmm.
right? So when you recognize how infinite and
Oh, okay.
elevated God is, right? That helps awaken in you some compassion for how much your godly soul has fallen to have to deal with somebody like you.
Yeah.
Um, והנה בזיו והרה זאת שהוא התפשטות החיות משמו יתברך להחיות עליונים ותחתונים, הוא שיש הבדל והפרש בין עליונים לתחתונים, שעולם הזה נברא בהשם, that and it is itself a creation that there even exists a distinction, right, between that which is greater and that which is less,
Hmm.
right? Recently I forget who I was talking to. Oh, so had some people over on Sunday, and we were talking about we were talking about theology, and
As one does.
what, as one
As
does. I
one
mean,
does on Sunday with friends.
yeah. What else would you do when you have Sundays? Like, it's Memorial Day weekend. What are you going to talk about? So I said, I think when you start looking into divine simplicity is when you start realizing that theology has some depth to it, because divine simplicity, this idea, and frankly, I mean, please don't take what I say as even a good start on understanding divine simplicity, but the idea that God doesn't exist, God is existence, right?
Hmm.
It's such a difficult and derived idea, right?
Yeah.
That it's not aleph bet. It's not the beginning of trying to understand anything from God. Somebody who's just starting with theology is just going to think you're talking nonsense,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and similarly, I mean, like, this thing that, like, what he's saying, he's basically saying, I mean, he's indicating towards divine simplicity, right? That before creation,
There
and
was no fresh. There was no
there,
Evdel.
there is no hefresh whatsoever.
There's no separation.
There is no hebdel and no hefresh. So there is no is, right? Um,
Yeah, I remember some rabbi talking about, like, asking the question, what happened before creation?
mhm.
And he was going about it, and he was like, there is no before. There's not, like, there's no time is consequence of creation. So you can't say, yeah, but what happened before creation? Like, there's no concept of before. So it's kind
Right.
of, yeah, it's kind of like very,
Before creation, there was no before. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. וכן כל שינויי הפרטים שבכל עולם ועולם הוא לפי שינוי צירופי האותיות. So everything and every detail that exists, it's through the various combinations of these letters. וכן שינויי הזמנים בעבר, הווה ועתיד, right? Simple. Also, all of time. That's that which was, is, and will be. ושינויי כל הקורות וחילופי הזמנים, right? So anything that happens in the seasons and change of time. הכל משינויי צירופי האותיות. All of these things are emanations of the combinations of the divine names. שהן המשכת החיות Mimidotav yitbarach shamo. These letter combinations are conduits of the life-giving force that proceed from attributes of God. Blessed be His name. כמו שנדבר בליקוטי אמרים חלק ב' פרק י' א', right? That is Shar Yichud ve'Amuna, I believe, part 2. Okay, so all of this, Ava, לגבי מהותו ועצמותו יתברך כתיב, אני Hashem lo shaniti. But when we talk about atzmuto and mahuto, right? That which is the inner aspect, the most obviously, since we give it a name, since we can refer to it, it's already something that is far removed from God Himself.
Mm-hmm.
But when we want to try to indicate towards that which is the most essential nature of God, we refer to atzmut mahut, right? The essence and being of God. That is what can be referred to as ani havaya lo shaniti. I am the Lord, I have not changed. בין בבחינת שינויי השתלשלות מרום המעלות עד למטה מטה, whether you're saying that God somehow there's a change in how things happen through the seder hishtalshalut, right, through the progressions. שכמו שהוא יתברך מצוי בעליונים, כך הוא ממש בשווה בתחתונים, right? It is not really true that one place is somehow holier, more filled with God's presence than any other place, because how could you say so, right? וכמו שנתבהר בליקוטי אמרים חלק א' פרק נ' א', right? Like is explained there in Tanya chapter 51. ובין בבחינת שינויי הזמן, whether we're talking about time, שכמו שהיה הוא לבדו הוא, right? That even after creation, all that exists is God Himself, yachid umeyuchad, right? He is all that exists and completely unique. לפני ששת ימי בראשית, כך הוא עתה אחר הבריאה. God, creation has not changed God at all. V'hainu, that is because משום שהכל כעין ואפס ממש לגבי מהותו ועצמותו. When we are talking about God Himself, all of creation is as nothing, right? וכמו אות אחד מדיבורו של אדם, או אפילו ממחשבתו לגבי כללות מהות הנפש, השכלים ועצמותה, right? So you said a word, right? Ben said a word. Ben had an idea. Maybe it was a great idea. Right? But what is an idea compared to your very existence? Right?
Right. Yeah, we spoke about like what is a word compared to the power of speech?
Right.
What is the power of speech compared to thoughts that you have in your head, like a vision?
Yeah. Al derech mashal l'shakech et ha'ozen. So to give a metaphor so people can understand this better. Uve'emet ein aruch elecha kativ. Right? The fact is that actually we cannot compare anything to God Himself. וכמו שנתבהר במקום אחר בליקוטי אמרים חלק ב' פרק ט' עיין שם, and that is explained in, again, I believe that's Shar Yichud ve'Amuna, chapter 9. וזהו שאומרים המלך המרומם לבדו מאז. This underlies that we say in the prayers, the king who is exalted alone from aforetime. This is the blessings of Shema. Perush. כמו שמאז קודם הבריאה היה הוא לבדו הוא, before he created anything, only he existed, כך עתה הוא מרומם חולו, ומתנשא מימות עולם. Similarly, it's still that only God really exists, because he is beyond time and beyond all of his creation. Perush. שהוא רם ונישא למעלה מעלה מבחינת זמן הנקרא בשם ימות עולם. That means that he is in every way removed from that aspect which we know as the days of the world, as the dimensions of time. והיינו לפי שחיות כל ימות עולם הוא רק מבחינת המלך חולו. This is so because the life force of all the days of the world derives solely from the spiritual level known as king. I mean, time is related to Malchut. I'm not sure why he's specifically saying that.
His life was all the days of the world.
I mean, that it comes from one particular what you call it, Sphira, maybe. The axis of past, present, and future, the element of time, relates only to the sphere of Malchut. Concerning this level, we may differentiate between the phrases he reigns, and he shall reign. However, the Sphirot and attributes that are above Malchut transcend the element of time. Okay.
Right.
So Malchut is the lowest Sphira, and so even the higher Sphirot all transcend time.
Right. It's saying that time is only of this world, maybe in some sense, right? Like, is that?
Yeah, but really what he seems to be pointing out is, for example, Netzach and Hod and Yesod even they are beyond time.
Yeah.
Okay. This is explained in another place. הרחמנות גדולה מאוד מאוד על הניצוץ השוכן בגוף, החשוך והאפל, משקה דחיביה, העלול לקבל טומאה ולהתגאל בכל התאוות רחמנא ליצלן, right? So once you understand all of this, we can go back to that divine spark that is within you, right? That dwells in the dark and gloomy body, the hide of the snake. For the body is liable to contract impurity. I would actually translate ha'elul, meaning it definitely will.
Right. Probable.
And to become defiled by various lusts, may the merciful one spare us, right? So your poor soul has to deal with you. Right? Lulei she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu magen lo, if it was not that God is shielding man, v'noten lo oz v'tatzumot lilchom im haguf v'ta'avotav l'natzchan. Right?
I need to remember to have a siddur when we do this, because I always have things to reference from there, and I can't remember. But,
next time, have a siddur.
Next time.
Or you can look on an online siddur.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. It is not the same. This is true. And my problem is I'm used to a Sephardic siddur, so oftentimes I don't even know where to find it in a Ashkenazi siddur.
Mm-hmm.
No, but like, and one of the things you have to be grateful to your to grateful for, and to recognize the that have compassion for your soul, is that if God had not given you the capacity to wage war against your basest desires, and in fact to triumph over them, no, your soul would be ravaged even worse than it is now. וזהו שאומרים אדון עוזנו חולו מגן ישענו. This is what we say in prayers: Master of our strength, shield of our salvation, right? After extolling God as the King who is exalted alone from for a time, and beseeching him in his abundant mercies to have compassion on us, we continue with the above quoted phrases. With these phrases, we affirm that God provides us with an encompassing light and power, far transcending man's own puny powers, that enables us to triumph over the body and its passions. והנה מודעת זאת, ויש שני מיני דחילו ורחימו. Now he's going to explain there are two forms of divine awe and love, right? So in Lashem Yichud we say Lashem Yichud Kudsha B'Richu B'Tchilu Rechimu Rechimu Tchilu, right? So why that double lashon, right? That's double speaking, mentioning it twice, like we've explained before. There is greater awe and lesser awe, and greater love and lesser love of God, which corresponds to the four letters of his name.
Yeah.
Right? And those things which are lesser are talui b'davar, they depend on something. And those things which are greater are not talui b'davar, they are independent, right? So lower awe, which is the lowest of all emotions, is yirat chet mipnei ha'onesh, right? Is being is an awe of God that depends on a fear of punishment.
Right.
The next step up is a love of God for because of a desire for a reward. Then a step above that is a love of God which is not dependent on the reward. And even greater is an awe of God which is not dependent upon a fear of punishment. Harishonot הן הנולדות מהתבונה והדעת בגדולת השם ודברים המביאים לידי אהבת השם ויראתו. So he's explaining the distinction between the two, being that the first ones, the greater ones, come from understanding the greatness of God, and which then helps us love and have awe or fear God truly. והתחתונים הן הבאות אחר כך מלמעלה מבחינת מתנה. The latter ones are those that come afterward from above as a gift. So I think the first ones he's talking about actually lower love and fear, and because those are dependent on your own actions, whereas the higher ones come from God himself. They're not talui b'davar.
Right, they're inheritance, but they get activated. Right, there's a spark. They're there in every Jew.
Oh, there is a ahava mesuteret, right? So that is a Yerusha we have from our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
True, but here he's talking about the the more revealed type, he's saying there's there he calls them the first, right, which come from us awakening an arousal from below, us awakening love and fear of God by contemplating his greatness. And then once you do that, you create a vessel to receive that gift, which is love and fear of God, which comes from God himself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
וכמו שנתבאר במקום אחר על הפסוק עבודת מתנה אתן את כהונתכם, like is explained elsewhere, not sure where, part 1, chapter 14, in comment on the verse, I shall grant you priestly service as a gift. Okay? Shehi midat ahava. So when we talk about kehuna, we talk about the priesthood, we're referring to love. V'chen hu gam ken be'yira. And also, this also applies to the fear of God. It is also a matana. It is also a gift. V'hinei vadai ein aruch klal bein harishonot shehen toldot hasechel hanivra. Now there is surely no comparison between the first ones, the lower levels of, right, so the first ones were lower, which are the products of the great, of the created intellect, לגבי האחרונות שהן מהבורא יתברך שמו. Right? Those come from God himself. ולכן הן הנקראות בשם אמת. That's why those later ones are referred to as true. כי חותמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא אמת. Because the seal of God is truth. שהוא אמת האמיתי וכל האמת שבנבראים כלל חשיבי קמא. Because he is the actual truth, right? And everything that comes, that all other truth comes from him. Ach eze haderech sheyizkeh adam le'emet Hashem. But how does a person merit this truth of God? Hine hu al yedei sheyorer rachamim rabim lifnei Hashem. Al hanitzot shebenafsho, right? That he has to awaken compassion in God's eyes for that spark in his soul which is caught in this world. Shehi midato shel Yaakov mavriach mehakatse el hakatse.
What's from 1 and 2? What does that mean?
I believe it's from Genesis. Exodus 26-28.
יעקב מבריח מהקצה אל הקצה. Is that him being?
Well, let's see.
Bringing shefa to the
20. It's 26-28.
I was just learning about this Jacob being, like, the different ways of understanding Jacob acting as the tzaddik versus the, what's the other, the tzaddik versus the Baal Tshuva. Kind of similar, meaning somebody that just is interested in purity and spirituality versus somebody that looks to bring spirituality or accommodate the whole world or bring light to the entire world. So I wonder if mavriach ma'katzeh lekatze, right, going through from one end to the other kind of harkens to that idea of Yaakov being forced even to be somebody that tries to bring things together. There's a whole thesis, but it's gonna be too long.
Well, I mean, yeah. So the idea is Abraham. Like Abraham grew up in the house of Terah, who was an idolater, and he became a tzaddik, right? So okay, that's easy to do. Yitzchak was born in the house of Abraham. So how does he accomplish being a? He's already being taught, right? How does he accomplish being a tzaddik, right? He has to take it even a step further, which has a difficulty which is of its own, right? And Yaakov, right? Yes, he was raised by Yitzchak, but in Lavan Garti, right? He was forced into Egypt, and so he took it even further than Yitzchak, right? That he was born in a situation where he knew right from wrong, but he in a sense was conquering the rest of the world, right? So there is that idea. I'm just that particular verse, Mavriach Me'akatzeh el Hakatzeh, is referring to building the Mishkan, and I'm not sure where he gets that. Where he's getting the connection to Yaakov Avinu.
Interesting.
Let me just quickly look on Safaria. Exodus 6:28. I don't know why particularly he's making a connection with. Let's see what the Zohar has to say. If it'll load. Amudim ha amina kol inon de mitachton.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, so this is like, I mean, bringing the the wood to Egypt, because that's what they end up building the Mishkan with in the desert.
But what does that have to do with Yaakov?
I mean, I guess he did it when they first moved to Egypt. I don't know what it means on a spiritual level.
So the Aramaic word for the planks is keshut, which also means truth. So that's why he is. I think he is. Making a connection between the wood and Yaakov.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My guess.
Your guess is as good as my guess, or even better.
We'll see. Okay. Dahainu, merum hama'alot ad lamata mata. So when we say from one end to the other, it means from the uppermost to the lowermost. L'hamshich emet Hashem le'olam hashafal hazeh hachashuch. Yeah, kind of like we were saying with Jacob, right? That he has to go live with Lavan and in Egypt. Kumo shekatuv ki eshev b'choshech Hashem or li. And as it is written, when I sit in darkness, God is my light. V'zehu ki gavar aleinu chasto. And that's what it means, that his kindness overwhelmed us, right? Because a combination of chesed and gevura is rachamim, compassion. I.e., God's kindness has prevailed over the darkness of this world, illuminating even that aspect of a man's soul that is clothed within his body. In answer to the question asked above, then it is now clear that the way by which one can arrive at God's truth is by the arousal of divine compassion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who it's clear to, but apparently not me. Ach hit'ararut rachamim rabim lifnei Hashem tzarich lihyot gam ken be'emet. But this arousal of God's great compassion also needs to be done with truth. V'gam kishahu be'emet shelo ech yuchal al yedei emet shelo le'orer rachamim elyonim emet Hashem. And let's say that it's actually true that he, from his own side, is actually truly awakening compassion, right? How can that bring about, right, the truth of God, which is eternal and complete? So how is it possible to do that? It is through charity. Tzedakah. Shehi midat harachamim alman delit le migarme. What is charity? It's to do kindness to someone who doesn't deserve it, doesn't have anything of himself, which deserves that charity.
Wait, what do you mean doesn't deserve it? Why do you say doesn't deserve? Why do you say deserve?
Okay, so let's say I give you a job.
Thank you.
And you do the job. You deserve your
compensation.
Compensation, right? But what is tzedakah? That's only justice. It's justice that you did something, that I should pay you for it, right? But what is tzedakah? The tzedakah is midat harachamim alman delit le migarme, right? Someone who has nothing of himself, right? And you still give him something, right? He has nothing to trade for it, right? Lachayot ruach shefalim, to revive the spirit of the lowly. Ubit aruta delatata, it aruta deleila. Hashem meorer yeshenim umekitz nirdamim, right? So when there is an arousal from below, there will be an arousal from above, right? God who awakens those who slumber, right? So when a person does tzedakah, that causes God to engender in him a true emet, which is, and compassion, which is from beyond him, right?
So I think this is what he meant also when he said you need to tap into he mentioned something about compassion being almost what creates the world, Right, I can't remember the phraseology of what he said before. I said, and that is why we tap into it. That's why it's like we need to connect to that force in order to because it sustains the world. That is a force that we need to connect to, or like we need to reveal to. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, so ultimately, we don't create anything in the world. We just reveal things in the world
mm-hmm.
by getting out of God's way, right? And that is bitul, right? Ultimately, everything we have is that which God gave us,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yes, the true we arouse in God the desire to reveal through us um, His greatness in the world.
Yeah.
Hem bechinat rachamim rabim v'chasadim elyonim hane'elamim. Right? He arouses his great compassion and the supernal attributes of kindness which are concealed. Latzet hahelem el hagilui v'hara rabba. Right? That it allows it to be revealed in a manifestation which it wasn't before. La'or ba'or ha'chayim emet Hashem la'olam, right? So that a man is illuminated with the light of life, with the truth of God onto the world, right? Like he said, God is everywhere, and this idea that He is hidden from us, right? That's only from our side. There has been no change in God, right? But what we are able to do is to reveal godliness in the world.
Right.
V'zehu lashon zri'ah hane'emar b'tzedakah. And this is what it means when it says to sow. I actually prefer engendering, but because people don't really think of sowing as in sowing to plant much. But okay. Lahatzmiach emet ha'elyon emet Hashem. Right? So you're planting, you're causing to grow, right? The truth of God. Ubefrat b'tzedakah v'chesed shel emet she'osim in Eretz HaKodesh tibaneh v'tikonen b'mhera b'yamenu amen. So now he is going to make, I believe, his pitch, right? And he says specifically that tzedakah is when we do it with that with the land of Israel itself, the Holy Land. May it be built and established speedily in our days. Amen. L'kayem ma shekatuv emet me'eretz titzmach. It says that truth will sprout, will grow from the land being the Holy Land of Israel. Al yedei zri'at hatzedakah ba, right? Through sowing charity in it, v'chesed v'rachamim rabim hanesafim v'nilkatim latocha, right? And the kindness and great compassion that are gathered into it and gleaned in it. Hem me'orim gam ken chasadim elyonim hatzpunim v'ne'elamim ba, right? So it arouses the supreme graces that are hidden and concealed. Kamo shekatuv asher tzafanta, which you have hidden. L'chonena u ve'lahakima. So I believe this is the letter in which we'll find out so there's Kupat Rebbe Meir Baal Hanes, you may have heard, right? So
is that the one for Panasa?
Well, yeah. So one of the things is if you give tzedakah to Kupat Rebbe Meir Baal Hanes, also people when they've lost something, they'll so people will have tzedakah boxes in their home, and one of the tzedakah boxes many people have in their home, especially in Israel itself, but it used to be so. This was money that people would send, and frankly, this is a tradition that's recorded already in the Christian Bible. It's thousands of years old. People would send money from all over the world to the Jewish diaspora to the people who were living in specifically Jerusalem, but the surrounding lands. Especially, it was common for widows to and the elderly to move there, right? And so there are many charities that are referred to as Kupat's Rabbi Meir Baal Hanes, because hundreds of years ago, so the Alter Rebbe must have written this letter in the 1860s, I want to say. When did the Alter Rebbe live?
1860, I think. Isn't it earlier?
Yes, earlier. Yeah, he died in 1812. Okay. So it must have been 1810s. Yeah, or early 1800s.
17.
Yeah, or late 1700s. So the oldest charity is still Kolel Chabad, which the Alter Rebbe started in, and Kolel Chabad is still in Jerusalem. So I believe this is the letter where he asks for money for that charity specifically. If not, there's another letter. But yeah, there's another letter. This is where this is finishing. But one of the reasons the Alter Rebbe would send his letters around was to ask for money for these tzedakah, these charities, and explain why a person should give money to these charities. So yeah. וזהו שכתוב בצדקה תיקונני. Through tzedakah shall you be firmly established. Yeah. How much time you got?
I have time.
You have time? We have another letter. Epistle 7.
Epistle 7. Okay, but let me change positions a little bit.
Okay.
So I can gesticulate and everything. Okay. So maybe this is the letter where he makes the pitch.
It's possible. I forget which letter it was. Yeah.
Okay. So Epistle 7. אשרינו מה טוב חלקנו, מה נעים גורלנו וכולי. Fortunate are we, how good is our portion, how pleasant is our lot. This is in the morning service. השם מנת חלקי וכוסי וגומר, חבלים נפלו לי וגומר. God is the allotment of my portion and of my cup. You support my lot. The tracts apportioned by lot have fallen unto me pleasantly. Indeed, I have a goodly heritage. So, he's going to explain this. להבין לשון חלקנו וגורלנו. In order to understand the terms our portion and our lot, צריך לבהר היטב לשון השגור במאמר רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, אין לו חלק באלוהי ישראל. To understand these, one must properly explain a common expression in the teaching of our sages of blessed memory. Vis-a-vis, he has no part in the God of Israel. כי הגם דלכאורה לא שייך לשון חלק כלל באלוקות יתברך. It would seem that a term like part cannot be possibly applied to God, שאינו מתחלק לחלקים חס ושלום, because he is not divisible into parts, God forbid. אך העניין, כמו שכתוב ביעקב, ויקרא לו אל אלוהי ישראל. This concept can be understood by considering a verse concerning Jacob, and he called him El, God of Israel. Pirush, the meaning of this verse is as follows, כי הנה באמת הקדוש ברוך הוא כשמו כן הוא. In truth, the Holy One, blessed be He, is true to His name. כי אף דהיהו ממלא כל עלמין עליונים ותחתונים, though He permeates all the upper and lower worlds, מרום המעלות עד מתחת לארץ על הזו החומרית, from the peak of all levels to this lowly corporal world, כמו שכתוב, הלא את השמיים ואת הארץ אני מלא, אני ממש, as it is written, do I not fill the heavens and the earth? I, God says, my very self. דהיינו, מהותו ועצמותו כביכול ולא כבודו לבד. Meaning God's very being and essence, as it were, and not only His glory. Let's read this. In another verse, we find the earth is filled with His glory. That verse alludes merely to the glory and radiance of godliness. Here, however, the words I fill refer to God's very essence permeating all worlds. Now, although God Himself permeates and is to be found in all worlds, I was going to explain, אף על פי כן הוא קדוש ומובדל מעליונים ותחתונים, ואינו נתפס כלל בתוכם חס ושלום. He is nevertheless holy in the sense of apart from the upper and lower worlds, and is not at all contained in them, God forbid. כי תפיסת נשמת האדם בגופו על דרך משל. In a way of analogy, that the soul of man is contained is in his body, and is affected by the changes, but unlike the soul, God is not at all affected by the worlds which He is to be found in, or not in. כמו שמבואר במקום אחר באריכות, as is explained elsewhere at length. ולזאת, for this reason, i.e., since God is entirely distinct and apart from all worlds, לא היו יכולים לקבל חיותם ממהותו ועצמותו לבדו כביכול. They, meaning the worlds, I guess, could not receive their life force from His being and essence in itself, as it were. רק התפשטות החיות אשר הקדוש ברוך הוא מכיל עליונים ותחתונים. Rather, just a diffusion of the life force whereby the Holy One, blessed be He, animates the upper and lower worlds. הוא על דרך משל, כמו הערה מאירה משמו יתברך. And this is metaphorically speaking like the radiance shining forth from His name. שהוא ושמו אחד. For He and His name are one. So, for which reason a ray that emanates from His name is able to animate the various worlds. או כמו שכתוב, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. Thus it is written, for even His name alone is exalted, high above. רק זיוו והודו על ארץ ושמיים גומר, while only His reflection and His splendor are on the earth and the heavens. וההערה הזו מתלבשת ממש בעליונים ותחתונים להחייתם. This radiance actually vests itself in the upper and lower worlds in order to animate them. ונתפסת בתוכם על ידי ממוצעים רבים. It is contained in them by means of many intermediaries. Levels that are related both to the lower ones and the upper ones. וצמצומים רבים ועצומים, and by means of numerous and intense contractions. בהשתלשלות המדרגות דרך עילה ואלול וכולי. In a downward chain-like progression through the levels of the various worlds in a sequence of cause and effect and so on. Let's read this note. Within every world, the lower level develops from the higher level by way of cause and effect, the higher level serving as the cause and source of the lower. After all these contractions, descends, then the light manifests itself within the various worlds by becoming vested in them. Okay? והנה, הערה זו, אף שלמעלה היא מהירה ומתפשטת מבחינת בלי גבול ותכלית. Now, although in the above worlds, this illumination shines and extends itself in unlimited and infinite fashion, להחיות עולמות נעלמים לאין קץ ותכלית, to animate worlds that are infinitely concealed, כמו שכתוב באידרא רבה, as is written in the Idra Rabbah, which is somewhere.
Idra, it's in the Zohar. It's a part of it.
אף על פי כן, ברידתה למטה על ידי צמצומים רבים, nevertheless, as this radiant descends by means of numerous contractions, להחיות הנבראים והיצורים והנעשים, to animate the beings that have been created, formed, and made, היא נחלקת דרך כלל למספר תרי"ג, כנגד תרי"ג מצוות התורה. It is divided primarily into 613 rays, corresponding to the 613 commandments of the Torah. שהן תרי"ג מיני המשכות הערה זו מאור אין סוף ברוך הוא. These commandments are in fact 613 kinds of conduits which transmit this radiance from the infinite Ein-Sof light. להאיר לנשמת האדם הכלולה מרמ"ח איברים ושס"ה גידים, whose function is to illumine man's soul, which comprises 248 organs and 365 sinews. אשר בעבורה הוא עיקר תכלית ירידת והמשכת הערה זו למטה. For it was mainly for the sake of man's soul that this radiance was caused to flow down below. לכל הנבראים והיצורים והנעשים. To all those beings which have been created, formed, and made in the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya.
Yeah, so he uses that language to explain the different types of world.
So it's just a
collection. He's just explaining what we've explained several times, which is there's Seder Hishtalshalut, right? And all of that is in order so that a man can turn towards God.
Yeah. So I don't know how much you're into Harry Potter.
I read all of the books.
All of the books. Okay, cool. So I haven't read the books, but anyway, I have people that have told me, but I've seen the movies. Anyway, I don't know what that has to do anything. But anyway, in Harry Potter, there's the idea of Voldemort putting his essence into certain
objects.
Horcruxes, right? So this kind of reminds me of that, like with the 600
yeah, I mean, this idea that there is an aspect of God embedded in human beings, I mean, it's fundamental to what Genesis teaches, and I think, I mean, ultimately Christianity likes to talk about the incarnation so much. I think where they go wrong is they don't recognize the divine spark in every person.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the fact that it was so hard. Hello, Rabbi Mullet. That it was so hard for them to accept the greatness of man, Shenivra B'Tzelem Elokim, that they fell into all manner of idolatry.
Right. Being sons of God.
Yeah.
שתכלית כולן הוא האדם כנודע. Since the ultimate purpose of all these being in all these different worlds is as is known. והנה, מספר זה הוא בדרך כלל. Now this number, the division into 613, is the primary basic division. אבל בדרך פרט, הנה כל מצווה ומצווה מתחלקת לפרטים רבים ולאין קץ ותכלית. More specifically, however, every single commandment subdivides into infinite details. והן גופי הלכות פרטיות שבכל מצווה שאין להם מספר. And these are the essentials of the detailed rulings of every commandments, the halachot, which are without number. כמו שכתוב, 60 הם המלכות. הן מלאכות. הן סמך מסכתות וכולי. As it is written, 60 are the queens, which, as our sages comment, alludes to the 60 tractates of the Mishnah. ועולמות אין מספר, where is that?
It's sharing.
ועולמות אין מספר, הן ההלכות וכולי. The same verse, Shir HaShirim, continues, and maidens without number, which, as our sages comment, alludes to the innumerable rulings of the individual laws. שהן המשכת רצון העליון וכולי. For they are a downward flow from the supreme will, which is infinite. וכן, הוא ממש בנשמת האדם. It is precisely so with man's soul, which has the means to absorb the innumerable details of the downward flow of divine radiance. כי הנה כל הנשמות שבעולם היו כלולות באדם הראשון. For all the souls in the world were comprised in Adam. ודרך כלל הייתה נשמתו נחלקת למספר תרי"ג, רמ"ח איברים ושס"ה גידים. Basically, his soul was divisible into 613 elements, consisting of 248 organs and 365 sinews. Also, something interesting that I learned is that and you can confirm this, maybe, is that the back, what's the thing in the middle?
Your spine?
Your spine is not one of the 613.
That's interesting. I don't remember being told that, but that I couldn't believe that. Okay.
Yeah. So it's something to think about.
That is interesting.
אך דרך פרט נחלקת לניצוצות אין מספר. More specifically, however, his soul, Adam Rishon, soul was divisible into innumerable sparks. שהן נשמות כל ישראל מימות האבות והשבטים עד ביאת המשיח ועד בכלל, which are the souls of all of Israel from the days of the patriarchs and the founders of the 12 tribes, up to and including the time and coming of the Mashiach. שיקוים אז מה שכתוב, והיה מספר בני ישראל ככל הים, אשר לא יימד ולא יספר. ספר. מרוב. When the promise of scripture will be fulfilled, and the number of the children of Israel will be like the sand of the sea that cannot be measured nor counted because of its great quantity.
Correct.
Vehine. Let's read this. At this point, the Alter Rebbe resumes the thought he began earlier, where it was pointed out that Jacob referred to God as El, God of Israel. For the soul of Jacob, otherwise known as Israel, was illumined with all the aspects of the divine radiance, just as was the soul of Adam. Veine, Shufaria de Yaakov me'en Shufaria de Adam.
Shufrei. So we're in Aramaic, and the suffix yud hey is like the suffix vav in Hebrew. So
Shofar Yaakov. Shofar is
Shufrei. Shufrei, his beauty, right? Me'ein Shufrei de Adam Harishon. It resembles the beauty of Adam.
Right, שתיקן חטא האדם הראשון, for he rectified the sin of Adam.
That's from the Zohar.
Yeah,
Don't ask me more questions.
I'm trying to think because I just went through the story of like Joseph and his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something, there is, I don't know enough about this, so let's continue. והייתה נשמתו גם כן כלולה מכל הנשמות שבישראל מעולם ועד עולם. His soul too, Jacob's soul, comprised all the souls of Israel from world to world. והיה מרכבה לתורה שלמעלה שנקראת בשם אדם. Moreover, he was a vehicle for the Torah in its heavenly state, which is referred to as Adam. Let's read this. This phrase reflects the wording of a verse which begins with the words Zot HaTorah Adam. This is the law, a man. Interpreted on the level of Drash, these words have been taken literally to mean this is the Torah, Adam.
Zot HaTorah Adam.
No. Right. כמו שכתוב, ועל דמות הכיסא דמות כמראה אדם וכולי. As it is written, and on the likeness of the throne there was a likeness as the appearance of Adam. This is from Ezekiel.
Yep. במרכבה.
וכמו שכתוב, וזאת לפנים בישראל וכולי. It is likewise written, and this Zot was the custom in former times in Israel. Should we read this little thing because I don't understand this? That at least is the plain meaning of the phrase quoted. So on the interpretive level of Drash, however, each of the three words, Hebrew words, is here construed as follows. Zot, as taught in the Zohar, connotes Torah. Lifnim, within. B'Israel, in Israel, the patriarch. At this level, the quoted phrase thus means that the Torah is implemented within Israel, the patriarch. En zot ela Torah chule. And zot refers only to the Torah.
Yeah, so like the Zohar says, the word zot, so he's darshaning, according to Drash, he's darshaning zot lefanim be'Israel, right? What is the actual meaning there? It's saying this was the custom in Israel, right? But he's taking these three words, zot, ein zot ela Torah, right? Lefanim be'Israel. This is what is within Israel.
Right. שהייתה כלולה ומלובשת בנשמת ישראל סבא. הכלולה מכל הנשמות. For the Torah was contained and vested within the soul of Israel, the patriarch, which compounded all the souls. וזהו, ויקרא לו אל אלוהי ישראל. This is the meaning of the above quoted phrase. And he called him El, God of Israel. El, לשון המשכת הערה מאור אין סוף ברוך הוא מהעלם אל הגילוי. So, since the name El denotes the attribute of Chesed, which finds expression in God's desire to communicate as a hidden light, Jacob's use of the name El signifies men's calling forth the radiance from the infinite Ein Sof light, which is clothed in the Torah, from concealment to manifestation. We call lo El Elohei Israel.
So he's using that particular name, which apparently has is a remez, hints towards Gilui or Hashem.
Yeah. להאיר בבחינת גילוי בנשמתו, so that it should illumine manifestly in a man's soul. וכמו שכתוב, אל השם ויאר לנו. Thus, too, it is written, El is the Lord, and he has given us light. ואחריו כל ישרי לב העוסקים בתורה ובמצוות, מאיר אור השם אין סוף ברוך הוא בבחינת גילוי בנשמתם. And after Jacob, the infinite Ein Sof light shines openly into the souls of all the upright of heart who engage in Torah and the mitzvot. וזמן גילוי זה ביתר שאת, ביתר עוז, ההערה במוחם וליבם. The most elevating and most powerful manifestation of this divine radiance in their mind and heart. הוא בשעת התפילה כמו שמבואר במקום אחר. Occurs at the time of prayer as explained elsewhere. והנה, אף שגילוי זה על ידי עסק התורה והמצוות הוא שווה לכל נפש מישראל בדרך כלל. Though this manifestation of light through a person's involvement in Torah and commandments is generally equal in every individual Jew, כי תורה אחת ומשפט אחד לכולנו, for we all have one Torah and one law. Excuse me. אף על פי כן, בדרך פרט אין כל הנפשות או הרוחות והנשמות שוות בעניין זה. Nevertheless, in a more specific way, in regard to this manifestation of light that radiates through the study of Torah and the performance of the mitzvot, not every nefesh, the lowest level of the soul, ruach, the higher level of the soul, and neshama, an even higher level, is equal. לפי עת וזמן גלגולם מבואם בעולם הזה. For this depends on the period and time of their reincarnation and their coming into this world. וכמאמר רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, אבוך במאי הווה זהיר תפי אמר לה בציצית וכו'.
So this is again Aramaic, and in Aramaic it's actually unlike Hebrew where you would say avicha. In Aramaic you say avuch, meaning your father. B'mai, with what? B'ma haya have zahir tfei shapir. He more careful? Amar le betzitzit. So there's a story where they ask, somebody is asked, what was your father most careful in? And he says tzitzit, and I forget the exact things of this, but it shows that some people have a greater attachment to some mitzvot than others.
Right. That can be connected to.
Yeah, some things are more meaningful, more apart. You will see some people are more careful and more attached to certain mitzvot.
Yeah. וכן אין כל הדורות שווים. Likewise, not all the generations are the same. כי כמו שאיברי האדם, כל איבר יש לו פעולה פרטית ומיוחדת. For just as with the organs of man, each organ has its particular and distinctive function. העין לראות והאוזן לשמוע. The eye to see and the ear to hear. כך כל במצווה מאיר אור פרטי ומיוחד מאור אין סוף ברוך הוא. So too, through a commandment, or each commandment, there radiates a particular and distinctive light from the infinite and soft light. ואף שכל נפש מישראל צריכה לבוא בגלגול לקיים כל תרי"ג מצוות. And although every Jewish soul needs to be reincarnated in order to fulfill all 613 commandments, מכל מקום לא נצרכה אלא להעדפה וזהירות וזריזות יתירה. This heightened attention focused on a particular commandment is necessary only for the sake of an additional measure of vigilance and zeal. ביתר שאת ויתר עוז כפולה ומכופלת. A zeal doubly and exceedingly elevated and powerful. למעלה מזהירות שאר המצוות. far suppressing one's zeal in the fulfillment of the other commandments. וזהו שאמר במאי, Ave Zahir Tafi. Hence the word Tefi.
Tefei.
Fei. When will I learn?
When you learn Aramaic, I mean, it's a whole different language.
Yeah. I'm doing better on Rashi scripts. Yes.
No, you're actually doing much better with Aramaic. Yeah.
Hence the word most, Tfei. When he asked, with what commandment was your father most careful? Right, the zeal there particularly was strong. והנה יתרון האור הזה הפרטי לנשמות פרטיות. Now the superiority of this individual light that is bestowed upon individual souls אינו בבחינת טעם ודעת מושג, is not in the category of a reprehensible reason, אלא למעלה מבחינת הדעת, but transcends it, שכך עלה במחשבה לפניו יתברך, for thus it arose in God's thought, so to speak. ודוגמתו למטה הוא בחינת הגורל ממש. And its model below is truly the concept of a lot.
So, I mean, that he was explaining why we can talk about Chalkenu and Goralenu, right? Because even though obviously God is completely simple and without parts, right? When you understand Seder Hishtalshalut, you understand that some things that ultimately things do have parts, and we end up feeling a greater attachment to particular things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what it means when it says Chalkenu v'Goralenu.
Yeah.
Got it?
Got some of it.
Which part didn't you get?
I mean, no, I think Goralenu, I mean, yeah, it's something that we accept, like we said with Goralenu, something that we understand, like he said, the difference between people's souls, inclinations, manifestation of the light, and the zeal that corresponds to that. I think that I understand, but yeah.
I was thinking of Epistle 21. That's the one that directly
Speaks about the charity.
That charity. Clown says, obligatory dumb comment.
Very dumb, but obligatory. That's true. So somebody has to do it.
It is obligatory.
I guess that is. Can we say that Elijah has the zeal? Has these particularly zilful? That's not a thing.
Zealous.
I guess that makes sense. Zealous about commenting on Torah videos. Is that a commandment?
So there's a story in the Talmud that somebody is visited by Elijah. I forget who it was. Eliyahu Hanavi. And he asks Elijah, who is a Ben Olam Haba? Who is a person who has a share in the world to come? And Elijah says, go to the market in certain place, and you'll see him. So he goes, and he's looking and he's looking and he doesn't see. So he goes back to Elijah. I haven't heard this story in a long time. I should probably look it up, but the essentials are still
Yeah.
there. And he says, "Who was it?" Elijah says, "Go back. You'll see." He goes back, and he waits all day, and he doesn't see. And then, I believe it was 3 days. And then he goes back, and Elijah says, "What do you mean? You didn't see him? He was there all day." It's like, the only person who was there all 3 days, the whole time, was this clown who was making people laugh. That was it.
Interesting. I heard a slightly different story.
Yeah.
I think also in Elijah, somebody comes to him and asks him.
There are a lot of stories about Elijah.
Well, but it's like similar. Where's Mashiach? And Elijah says, "Go to the market or go to the gate where the lepers are."
Right. That's the famous one with Rome. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's
This is specifically there was a Badchan or two Badchanim that all they would do is they would go in the market and make people laugh. And I'm gonna have to look that story up now for Elijah.
the clown in the market.
Yeah. I think this is it. Ta'anit 22a.
Oh, Tanit is like it's full of stuff. I guess probably every check is full of stuff, but I'm going through it now, and it's like, damn.
Oh yeah, you're learning Ta'anit.
So, well, Tanit very lightly because just going through in the local Chabad, but I mean, still.
Still, you should. Yeah, I mean,
very cool.
Here it is. The Gemara relates another story about the righteousness of common people. Rabbi Barucha Chozah was often found in the market of Bei Lephet, and Elijah the prophet would often appear to him. Once Rabbi Barucha said to Elijah, "Of all the people who come here, is there anyone in this market worthy of the world to come?" He said to him, "No." In the meantime, Rabbi Barucha saw a man who was wearing black shoes, contrary to Jewish custom at the time, and who did not place the sky blue dyed thread of ritual fringes on his garment. Elijah said to Rabbi Barucha, "That man is worthy of the world to come." Is this the one I'm thinking of? Well, we'll see. Rabbi Barucha ran after the man and said to him, "What is your occupation?" The man said to him, "Go away now, as I have no time, but come back tomorrow and we will talk." The next day, Rabbi Barucha arrived and again said to him, "What is your occupation?" The man said to him, "I am a prison guard, and I imprison men separately and women separately. And I place my bed between them so that they will not come to transgression." This is not the story that I was thinking of. Where's the story I was thinking of?
What's marketplace? This is something with the marketplace.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it.
20. It's about, but I remember the word is badchanim, but 22a is apparently very long.
Yeah, this you say 22a also in my.
Yeah, but like where in 22a? Let's see, but Khan is with a chet or a
chet should be
okay, but Khan. Let's see what Bad Khan comes up. Why did it not? Come on. Bad Khan. Search.
I need.
Doesn't like me. I don't know why it doesn't like me, but it doesn't like me. Bad Khan. Khan. There we go. Talmud.
You found it?
No.
We are jester. We are jesters. 7? 22A7?
22A7.
So up.
Okay. So Ta'anit 22A7. Okay.
So maybe
it was the story. Okay. First, in the meantime, two brothers came to the marketplace. Elijah said to Rabbi Baruch, "These two also have a share in the world to come." Rabbi Baruch went over to the men and said to them, "What is your occupation?" They said to him, "We are gestures and we cheer up the depressed. Alternatively, when we see two people who have a quarrel between them, we strive to make peace." Yeah. So because of that, they had a chelek in Olam Haba.
Mm-hmm.
The way I told the story was much better.
Yeah, there was more suspense involved, I think.
Yeah. What can I say?
Maybe you connected the one with the leper.
It's possible. It's been many years since I've heard this story, and sometimes you hear the story from rabbis who make it a little bit better than just the simple. Because let's face it, when you're trying to translate Talmud, you have to put in a few details yourself because it's not complete.
Yeah.
Yeah, the words are never complete in themselves.
Translate is hard. Nice. Okay.
Are we done?
Anything other interesting things that?
I'm not a very interesting person.
No.
No. Did you watch the stream earlier today? I had a stream earlier today as well.
I don't think so. I think I listened to it a little bit, maybe, but I don't remember.
PVK graced us with his presence.
Who? PVK?
Yeah.
So I missed it. How is he doing? I haven't seen him in a while.
He's doing okay. His son just got. I don't know. Plenty of people on Twitter tell me they've read the Talmud. Anytime somebody tells me they've read the Talmud, I'm like, guessing you never even saw. It's funny. The people who take the out of context quotes of the Talmud couldn't even find the quote that they quote out of context. Like they wouldn't even know where to find it.
Yeah.
You know? No.
Cool. Okay.
I think I'm going to end the stream.
Sounds good.